and give us their
It was quite unbelievable today.
humbled and
Has
proud.
exceeded my expectations.
My favorite part about
We just thought Destiny was going to
All right, well, welcome to another episode of We Are Amada, and I am joined by Gwen Smith, who is the co-owner of Amada Senior Care in Charlotte and Lake Norman, and she owns the business there with her husband Brad. And Brad will most likely be joining us for a future episode, right?
Absolutely. Hi, Marcus. Good to be
Hey.
with you.
Good to be with you too. Thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate you making time for us. So, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about owning a business with your spouse. I want it because and here's what I wanted to ask you that question. We were in Mexico together for the reward trip. It was great to see you guys there.
Yes.
For those of you who are listening, every year we do a reward trip, and our top, I don't know, 30 or so franchise partners join us. And so Brad and Gwen were there with us, and you guys met my wife while we were there.
She's
And
amazing.
thank you. And she's amazing. And I've always wondered about owning a business with my wife. And I think we've had times in our life where that would be amazing, and we have times in our lives where that would be very challenging. So I thought I'd hit you with that question to get us started, because a lot of people who look at a business, maybe a mod or any business, they consider, well, this could be something great to start with my spouse or with a
Sure.
business partner, with my best friend or somebody like that. So why don't we start there?
Let's start there. Okay, so for us, it works great. We have been married, we're just a few weeks shy of 32 years. And because we've spent our entire lives together and have raised our children together, which they're all now adults and they're grown and flown, this is a good season for us to partner in the building of our company. I don't know that when we were younger that it would have been a great, and I think timing's everything in the season of life that we are in, where there are no young children in our home. We're not running from one ball field or court to
Yeah,
another, which
right.
was our
Yeah.
norm. We have a house. Our house was filled with athletes. Brad and I are both former athletes, so for us in this season, it's great. And Brad and I actually have different strengths, and we're aware of that. And because they complement one another and we both bring something really different to the table, I think that's very helpful to building our company together. There are challenges, of course, as with any partnership. So for us, we're locked in. you know, till death do us part.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, and honestly, we're people of faith. So for us, it's we're going to play together, pray together, and just really build and grow together. Is it stressful at times? Absolutely. Does our staff want to sometimes crawl under the table during staff meetings because we clash? Yeah, probably. But for the most part, he covers off and all things office and paper, and I am business development and marketing. So there's a lot of complementary, teamwork with it.
I've heard that from the successful entrepreneurs, not just in Amada. I think when you have a business partnership, that the best thing to do is to divide those roles, right? That you're not doing the same thing and you're playing to your
Yes.
strengths, and perhaps also not keeping from oversight of each other, and
Yeah.
having that trust, right? Because as soon as I think as one partner starts to try to boss around the other one or get in their field, that can be difficult. But I see both of you as having very transferable skills that I
hmm
think you could take on ops. And I think
Yeah.
that Brad could also take on sales. Is there some merging of those skills? Do you sometimes jump into ops? Do you sometimes jump into sales?
Absolutely. We use the do not disturb button when we're in a meeting with a family and the phones roll to the other. So as much as, for example, today I was intending to follow up on a whole bunch of scheduling of seminars and connecting with resources in the community, but I was manning the phones all morning morning, and doing intake calls and putting out fire drills and, kind of navigating the waters of some complicated matters with clients, which would normally be Brad's scope, but it was because Brad was unavailable. And so instead
Yeah.
of going into his voicemail, they get a live human who is the toe tip of the spear. So we feel accessibility for our care team and our clients is really important. And that's part of what makes us so successful. You're not going to get an automated system when you call our office. You're going to get one of the owners. And I know that that's not duplicatable for everybody. And honestly, it's probably exhausting for us, but we never stop. um, but yeah, maybe it's that we have no boundaries. I don't know, Marcus, but no. So we do have complementary skill sets that do overlap. I agree. And I think that it is a matter of willingness to step in, but also yield. Like I had to have conversations with our scheduling department, which Brad oversees. And so I said to our lead scheduler, I said, hey, so here's my ideas. Here's what I think needs to happen. I know this is Brad's lane. So whatever he says is final word, but here's where I would say build a few ghost shifts, do this. And then once Brad is available, why don't you check to see what he advises for, final say.
Hmm. Now, okay, but let me ask, have you owned a business together with Brad before this?
Okay, that's a tricky question because the answer is kind of yes and no. So we did in that back in the day. Oh my goodness. Back in the day of multi-level marketing.
Oh
I
yeah,
hate to
yeah,
even say
yeah.
this out loud. Yes, we were very successful in a company called Excel Communications, and it was really back
I
when
remember
pagers.
Excel
Do you
Communications.
really? Oh my gosh.
That's a long
So
time ago.
a
Yes.
long time. We literally had just we it was 30 years ago. So yes, it was 30 years ago. So it's when we had just finished college. He was finishing up his master's. He was coaching college football. I was in sales and we were doing that together, and we did it for probably a year to two, and we did very well, but then it was a season. But
Well, and I think I asked that because the way you put your ability to jump into something and give
mm,
your opinion, but then still say, but obviously it's up to Brad, but I want to say it shows that there's respect and there's also some shared experience there. Wow, but
it's called raising
um
children together, Marcus. It's
that
not
too,
just
huh? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So respect, mutual respect, and
yeah.
honor is really important. So, and that's going to be in
So
any partnership, but especially in a marriage.
especially in a marriage. I didn't want to forget your multi-level marketing thing because I know it's so funny because I right after college, I also did that with my two best friends.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because you do sort of say kind of in hushed tones, like I used to
It's
do that.
cringy. It's
It's like,
cringy, and yet,
what a,
it's a
yeah.
part of our story.
But I think that was when I look at my education in college, like and it was also the same with you, like a year and a half, because
Hmm.
you burn so hot doing that, and then all of a sudden
Yes.
you're like, what am I doing? And it burns out. But the education I got from doing that is something that's still with me today. Like that
Yes.
was different from like an MBA, but I would even say more valuable than any of the not any. Gosh, it's so hard to say that, but it just feels it. I feel it in my gut that it was unbelievably valuable. What to do, what not to do, that all the experiences of it. Like those, I think those companies were really big training organizations, big
Yes.
massive training organizations. The ones that were successful anyway.
Yes, and there are disciplines to the process of development and pipeline and things that are going to be useful for sure, transferable skills into any business or profession, if you will. That is not completely like a narrow lane. Like if you're a doctor,
Yeah.
that's probably not going to help you.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
but
right.
it just depends. But if you're in the world of business, then likely that's going to transfer.
Okay, so as a segue to that, I've been wanting to ask you this. I was speaking to somebody who's looking at Amada Senior Care just yesterday,
Mhm.
and she's wonderful. She's been in corporate America for a very long time, and she said now the concern that I have is that I've never done sales before. She said I've never sold a thing in my life,
Mhm.
and as I've learned about this business, she says I've come to grips that I'm going to need to go out and build relationships. And we talk about how
Mhm.
our business is very relationship driven. The vast majority of the connections we make with families still throughout the country comes from a referral source, a relationship that we
Mhm.
built that then refers us to business. And I think, I don't know, Jeremy was telling me that only Jeremy is our VP of marketing.
Yeah.
20% of our business nationwide is coming from lead generation, where you picked up the phone. That's still sales, but you picked up the phone.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, somebody who's embarking and looking at this business, who's never done sales before, what would be your advice to somebody like that?
I will say this business is not for everyone.
Mhm.
You do have to. It's less about sales experience and more about your willingness to dive in with all of who you are to provide a service that is desperately needed in your community. So it's not a matter of selling anyone per se on your services. It's about establishing rapport, building trust, and sourcing employees who are going to be trustworthy, who are going to be attentive, who are experienced. So it's less about sales and it's more about presence. Are you
Mm.
trustworthy? Are do you have a strong work ethic? If you can't genuinely say, I'm gonna just gloves are off, we're going all in, then this probably isn't a good choice for you, frankly, because what we do requires us to be fully engaged. So I'm at, for example, I don't have to sell people. I have to get to know them. And so there's that the relationship component 100% is valid because I am Amada. I am Amada Charlotte. Brad and I are Amada Charlotte. We are the owners of the Lake Norman area, and we are who people are hiring.
Mhm.
And so, but we've been in this market for 30, or I'm sorry, we've lived in this market for 21 years. And so this is our community. Our friends have aging parents just like we do.
Mhm.
And when you've helped people, they're going to refer naturally. So it's a matter of, do you have a commitment in your heart to do something that matters? Are you willing to learn as you go? Brad and I used the phrase, it was something by Donald Miller that we always said the first we could actually, we're 4.5 years in and we'd still say it is, we're building the plane as we fly it,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
because it
Totally.
comes at you hard and fast. So I don't think it's about sales as much as it is good to have experience going outside your comfort zone and heading into hospitals, heading into skilled nursing, heading into rehab communities or other, places like that to get to know people. Is it good to have the experience? Sure. Do you have to be an extrovert? No. You just have to be willing to say, here is the service that we would love to be a resource for. And then it's more about giving. It's more, how can we help you? How can as I'm out and
Hmm.
about, what are your biggest needs? It's collaborative. It is about engaging in your community on a whole new level as a business owner, and not necessarily sales, because sales sounds kind of we're going to go with cringy again. I'm using that
Yeah,
word twice in
pushy
this one
and
episode.
yeah, yeah.
But there's a valid need for our seniors to be cared for with honor and dignity. They want to age in place, and we give families the opportunity to have that come to fruition, and or to help them find a location that would be best suited for mom or dad. So for me, it's not about sales. It is about accessibility and awareness, an increase of awareness that we can provide trustworthy, quality, high quality care.
That is what I said. That, and it's with a
Mhm.
lot of caution of saying, are you going to need to get in front of people? Yes. Right. Are you going
Mhm.
to need to put yourself out there? Yes. You have to commit 100%. And
Yes.
I'm reminded that we had an entrepreneur join us early in the story of Amada, who had been in sales, but it was sales where you have somebody go make an appointment with somebody, you then show up, it's already somebody who wants to buy something from you,
Mhm.
and you're there to do the sale. And I remember when we met this person, we were like, wow, they've done sales before, so doing this kind of sales is not going to be a big deal. And they got into it, and I remember, and this is also somebody who had a lot of self-awareness, which I thought was beautiful, because he came to
Mm.
us after a few months, maybe like a month or two, and he said, I'm struggling. And we're like, okay, well, tell us why you're struggling. And he said, I'm struggling because in my previous life of sales, I had a very easy entry into who I was selling. It was somebody who was already supposed to buy from us anyway. It was very formal. It was going to
Mm.
the meeting, and I had a presentation to make and all that. And he said, now it's, I walk into a hospital and
Yeah.
I have a case manager who's very busy, a case manager who may not want to speak to me right at that time, and who may say, I don't have time for you. And then I'm kind of going like, what do you mean you don't have time for me? And he felt like my ego was shot. It was a ego busting when people would be like, oh, like, you want to talk to me? Like, yes, absolutely. And so I use that case a lot because I think that, like you said, it's not sales like in a lot of
Widget
folks that
for
come with.
dollar.
Yeah, and a lot of people come with that with that type of sales experience, and I think it can also be very destabilizing for them, to have to kind of let go of your ego and be there to help. When the case manager says, "I'm busy, I don't have time for you," it's you have empathy for, "Oh my gosh, I get that you're so busy right now, so
Hmm.
I'm out.
Yeah.
It's totally okay."
So in that case, I think your win is going in the sale, if you will, is it's an understanding of what does that case manager need. Here's my
Yeah,
card. I know you're busy. If you have anyone who needs care, whether we can provide that care or not, call me. We can start at
yeah,
24/7 like that. If you have an emergency need 24/7, call me. I will be a resource for you. I will help any family. Even if we don't take their payer source or anything, I have a list of people who can help them, and I can be your one source. So that's the win. It's here's some cookies, and if you need
yeah,
anything, call me.
and you
It's
get
about
out.
making their life, yes, it's about making their life easier because they are overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, you want a simple resource. So that's some of the ways I know we're not talking sales strategy, but we are. And so it's awareness of that, and that everyone wants to be helped instead of provide you with sales.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really good feedback, and I'm glad that you shared that. And I want everyone to always be as eyes wide open as you possibly can be. And let me ask you, I think most entrepreneurs would tell us that as much information as they got about the business, there's no way to really prepare you for what it's really going to be like. Like you can
True.
research, marriage, you can research having kids, you can research our veterans, amazing, who go to war, right? You can do all the research, but until you've done it, until you've gotten married, until you've had kids, until you've served, until all those things, you have no ability to have what it's really going to be like. So tell us, what do you wish what would be your advice for somebody who's looking at this, and how can you impart to them, like, what is it really going to be like, and what do you wish you knew before you acquired the business, perhaps?
Great question. I would say it's hard, but it's good. I would also say the first 18 months are coming at you like a windstorm, and
Yeah.
it is literally flying the plane as you build it. There's no experience in the world that teaches you how to own a home care agency.
Ooh, that's really good. There
It
isn't,
doesn't
huh?
it doesn't matter.
There.
It's different. It's different. It's different. It's like playing whack-a-mole every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Because something's popping up at all times, and it you have to be able emotionally and stay, you have to be able to handle unexpected issues like a
Hmm.
caregiver calling off, or a client that falls, or a payer source that doesn't come through. So there's a lot of fire drills. If that
Hmm.
stresses you out and you need neat and orderly, this isn't for you. There is a
Hmm.
lot of chaos. This is controlled chaos.
Yeah, yeah.
And but it's healthcare. It's messy. It's not neat. It's not simple, but it's good. Home care is such a beautiful and powerful service that is provided one family to another, and in the community. It's so necessary, but it's not easy. It's not
Mm.
neat, and it's not glamorous.
And it's not glamorous. Yeah.
And I
So.
get to go to fancy networking things. I go to networking meetings all over town and wear my dress, and I've got my pearls
Hmm.
on right now.
Yeah,
But I promise you, if I needed to drop everything and care for a client and throw on scrubs, I'm doing it. And I'm
you're
going to
doing
put
it.
my hair in a ponytail, going to go put my scrubs on, put my gloves on. I'm going to change their brief. I'm going to help them with toileting. It doesn't matter. This is what we do. And so if that sounds weird to you, then maybe you need to rethink
Not
it. I just feel
not the
like as
business for you.
owners,
Yeah.
yeah, I look every single caregiver, when I do training and orientation myself. I like to know who
Uh-huh.
I'm bringing, who's going to be representing our team. And when I do the orientation, I let them know there's no care we will ever ask you to do for a client that we won't do for ourselves, that we won't do ourselves,
Wow, that you haven't done. Yeah.
or that I won't do. Yeah. I will, to this day, I'll throw on scrubs and go care for a client.
Yeah.
It's if we have to. I'm not going to look a family in the eye and tell them we're going to take care of your mom and keep her safe, and then we're not going to show up for a shift. We don't do that.
Right. You don't do it. Yeah. I think that's phenomenal advice, and I love the honesty of that. And I do clock it at not quite 12 months. Like most owners say that that's those first couple of years,
I was gonna
are
say, yeah, it's definitely not 12 months. It's
yeah,
18 to 24 months, yeah.
yeah,
And then even still, then you're building and growing, and everything you're still when you're building and growing, everything's still moving. So it's very fluid. And even when you're in up, having success and in an upward trajectory with growth, there's always someone else you need to hire because now you've expanded beyond your capacity. And so there's never been a point in 4.5 years for Brad and I where we thought, okay, we've got this.
yeah. We
We're
got this.
so we're
Yeah,
so
yeah.
set. We're
It's
so
easy now.
set. It's
Yeah.
still whack-a-mole every single day, but we understand what we're doing. And we work hard to complement one another and provide great quality care for our clients.
So I think you've also had a pretty big impact in our franchise community. I mean, in a very short period of time, you've gotten to know a lot of the folks in the system, and I think you've both been able to influence a lot of folks in our system. I think one of the biggest values of Amada is the folks that are running their businesses. I don't know. Can you talk about what that was like? Not us here in San Clemente, but the franchise partners that you've met in our community. What has that experience been like for you?
I would say this, you were very kind. I would say I feel like I've received way, way, way more from other owners than I've given. But it's one of those things where the more you give and the more relationships you develop, the more ideas you share, the better you all are. So if you have a willingness to work collaboratively with those around you or with other owners and say, share best practices and just be a lifelong learner, but also just a giver and a helper, that's where it's the beauty and the power. Like in North Carolina, we have a Carolina connection. So it's the North Carolina owners because we are a licensure state, which for those of you considering a business with Amada, it's every state either requires that you have a nurse
Hmm.
on staff and that a nurse does your plan of cares and everything like that, or a non-licensure state. So ours is required. So it is, unfortunately, it's more expensive
Yeah,
for us to run a business in North Carolina than it is, let's say, in Colorado, where they do
right,
not require a nurse.
right.
So there are certain nuances to our licensure, to state coming in, to all of that kind of thing where we're like, hey, how do you do this? But that group chat, or when we're discouraged, oh my gosh, I had
Yeah,
5 clients die in the past 2 weeks. We're dying over here. And then we're like, you got this. But so it's as much a support group as it is as for best practices. But that camaraderie and collaborative spirit is, I think, essential. It is very easy, though, to be overwhelmed by the to-do list and the whack-a-mole scenario, that it
hmm,
can be isolating as an owner, and you have to be intentional. You have to be intentional with the relationships. That's where the annual conference is helpful to get to know some other people, but
yeah, sure.
you have to not just take a business card. You actually have to put them in your phone and hit them with the text
And
saying,
build those
hey,
relationships.
do you have an SOP on recruiting? Like,
Yeah.
what are you using for your phone platform? Like I am so honored to serve on the FAC, which is the Franchise Advisory Council, and
Hmm.
even just being at the table with these other owners from all across the country, I have learned so much from them. But I feel like now we're all in it together, and I can pick up the phone or text any of them at any time, and we're going to help each other. So that's huge. It can be weird in if you have shared markets, and yeah, you have to really honor one another and not
That's
go.
right.
And I think that's huge because otherwise, you don't want to. You just really need to honor one another, work
Hmm.
collaboratively when possible, and just recognize that no one can do everything,
Yeah.
and we need each other.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well,
See.
listen, I've kept you for a half hour. I'm really, really thankful for your time, and for everything you've contributed to Amada Senior Care. You and Brad, we are so, so lucky that you're part of the Amada family. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was very kind of you. Thank you, Marcus. We love being a part of the Amata family and truly love what we do. So thanks.
I love it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of We Are Amada. Gwen, thank you for your time. And if you want more information on Amada Senior Care, you know where to find us. Thank you, everybody.